So, Shannon, it's not every day that we have news to discuss on this program. And many days we just make stuff up.
We need the ticker tape. We need the.
Yeah, well, but today we have news. There's stuff happening, and the impact of which we will address. It's the podcast. John Shannon, yours truly, Bob McCowan. Quick break, and we'll come back and start yapping. Back after these messages. So I had a bunch of things I wanted to discuss today. There's no guest, by the way, this day once again.
I was going to ask you. I was just going to drill you with questions.
Oh, were you? Well, you go ahead if you'd like to do that. If you'd like to construct this program on the fly in the manner to which you have prepared, then I'm happy to respond appropriately.
Hold on. We prepare?
Well, I assume you do. Lord knows I don't.
I have spent the whole morning practicing my ad libs. So.
Have you? Well, ad lib a question, and then we'll get going.
How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for asking.
Okay, go.
Well, we begin with the announcement that Jose Berrios has signed an extension with the Toronto Blue Jays. It's a 7-year deal. He will get $11 million this year in his ARB year, and then 6 years at $20 million each, a total of $131 million over 7 seasons.
Did you see that coming?
I honestly didn't think much about it. We've spent so much time concentrating on Ray and to a lesser extent Mats and what would happen with them. And we knew Berrios was under contract for another year. But we probably should have recognized that it would be the Blue Jays' intent to try and get him under contract long term. You can make the argument that he's the best pitcher on the staff, assuming Ray does not come back, and that being younger than Ray, he has the best long-term upside. So he's a guy you wanted to hang on to, I think, without question. But it did kind of surprise me a little bit.
The interesting thing for me is I think that this is one of those ones where if you look from the outside, you say, hey, guys are wanting to commit long term. They obviously feel this is a place where you can win. So that's the one thing from that perspective. The other thing that it does do for me is, don't you think it becomes an insurance policy if Ray doesn't come back? Or does this augur the fact that probably that Ray isn't coming back? No,
I don't think it means anything in that regard. The Blue Jays need 5 starting pitchers. We understand that.
Yeah.
Ryu is back. Manoah is back. We don't have any idea what Pearson is, whether he's a starter or a reliever or even a major leaguer. Ray and Mats were 2 of the 5 starting pitchers last year. Stripling started for half the year last year. And Hatch has been a starter in the past, but only started a couple of games, I think, since he's been with the Blue Jays. Part of that injury related, most of it injury related, I guess, but part of it because he can also throw out of the bullpen. But that's pretty much the extent of it. Those are your candidates. If you include Ray and Mats in that group, you have 8 guys. Mm-hmm. And if neither Ray nor Mats comes back, now you have 6. Which sounds like, okay, you only need 5, you got 6. Well,
you need as many as you can get. You know that, Bob. I mean,
that's my point.
That's the way the 162 game schedule works.
Yeah, I'm saying, the average fan would say, well, you got 6 and you only need 5, so you're in good shape. Well, you need more than that.
Yeah. And
there are guys in the system like Anthony Kay, but he hasn't shown that he can be an effective major league starter. And there's a few others. So I think this was an important signing.
And you bring up Pearson's name because we got a glimmer of Pearson in that last 7-day window.
Pretty good.
Where he looked the way we thought he was supposed to be. In that 2 innings, the 6 straight guys. I mean, it was one of those ones where you say, "Oh, he's okay." Now, They hadn't decided whether they were going to do surgery by that point, if they were going to do surgery at all. So, and
Now he's had the surgery.
Right. And so now hopefully he'll be rehabbing in time for, pitchers in early February.
Well, he's only about a week or so away from his proposed recovery period. So he should be able to start working out, I would say within the next couple of weeks, start throwing.
Okay.
So I don't think he'll miss hardly any time at all during the offseason.
And then does he become, when you talk about 5 or 6 guys, does he become that guy, I guess with Stripling too, that, hey, listen, if it doesn't work out as a starter, then you're a long reliever and you move your way back to the
baseball, right? That's how it is in baseball. I mean,
yeah.
Still as encouraged as I think we all were with Pearson's performance. I mean, he did pitch with a hernia problem.
Yeah.
That surgery should repair the damage, and you hope there's nothing else. He's had so many different injuries all over the place, but he pitched well in those relief appearances in September down the stretch and gave us a view we haven't really had at the major league level of what we thought he could be. He pitched like the kid who shot through the minor leagues and ate up everybody. And if he can extend that and extend his arm, because he hasn't pitched, has he pitched 100 innings in a year? I mean, maybe.
No,
once.
I don't think he had. I'm not sure he has.
Like by comparison, Berrios had 192 innings pitched last year. And that's essentially at least approximating what you would like to see from Pearson. The days of the 300 inning pitcher are over, but 200 innings should be doable, or something close to that. Pearson hasn't touched anywhere near that, and he's now 25 years old.
Yeah.
So
I don't know
got a lot to show us still.
I was going to say, I know how long you can live in Major League Baseball on potential. So that's what he's been doing. Right.
You can't.
So now, what's your gut on Matz? What's your gut on Ray?
I don't have any feel. I think what this comes down to is not the decision of either of the two pitchers. It comes down to the decision of the Blue Jays management as to which of the two, or theoretically both, they would like to see here. And economically, does that fit? Or are they more concerned about signing your all-star, virtually MVP second baseman, who is going to want something in the neighborhood, I think, of $25 million. And, with all the young guys, I'm not telling anybody, any Blue Jay fan, anything they don't know. You got to look ahead. You got to look ahead to who is going to get paid. And somebody isn't going to get paid. And right now they're going to have to decide which of these three. It might be 2 of the 3. I think that's their hope. It will not be all 3 are going to get paid. And now you got to decide.
Okay, so what and your gut on that is,
well, at this
not
point,
going to get paid guy, or who, not your gut, but who would you not pay? If Bob was in charge of all of Edward Rogers' money, because it's Edward Rogers' money now, who would you who would be on your list to pay and not pay?
Well, Matz would be the guy, the odd man out. But I wouldn't be disappointed if it was Matz over Ray plus Semien. Yeah. I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now you're talking about a Cy Young Award winner potentially in Ray and an MVP in Semien. You can't walk away from those guys unless you have to.
Right.
And while Matz has plenty of talent and plenty of ability, this was a guy who was let go by the New York Mets because they thought they'd seen enough and they didn't think he was going to amount to much. He's pretty good.
He's had a year of Pete. Well, he had some time with Pete Walker. That seems to be the difference.
Well, that seems to be the difference with all their pitchers.
That's what I mean.
Pete Walker is the miracle worker here who gets not enough credit.
Right.
for what he is able to do with pitchers, because he's had very few failures, very few, and a whole lot of successes. And the two guys that are free agents this year are both disciples of him in Ray and Matz.
Yeah.
So Ray gives me some concerns. But again, it's only because he's only done it really for 1 year, and he's a little older. Matz did it for most of 1 year, not all. He had some rough spots. And then you got Pearson, and you just don't have any idea health-wise where he's going to be at. A body that breaks down, I mean, and I'm talking, this is not an opinion, this is historical data. Anytime you have any athlete who has multiple injuries, yes, there's some benefit and optimism in the fact, if it is true, that they have injuries at different places in their bodies. It does, recurring injuries are really problematic. He's been injured all over the place. Hand, arm,
but body,
leg, groin.
Bob, as you well know, and you've talked about many times, even these bodies, as big as they are, because he's a big man, they're not built to throw the ball this hard, this fast, this long. And that's the problem. You know, they're overthrowing their own, physiology, really, in many ways. They're overextending themselves.
Well, that's why, and I am a disciple of this. I really like Manoah. He didn't get hurt at all. He hasn't been hurt at all during his pro career. And he throws 95, which is plenty hard enough. But he doesn't throw 102, which is what Pearson hit on the gun, I think, in his last appearance. Certainly in the last week of the regular season. There's a big difference between 95 and 102.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right. And you always have to be concerned that at some point, as you said, that arm breaks down. So,
or some part of that body.
Well, he's running out of things to break down. There's going to be some recurring injuries here somewhere if this keeps going. But it's a concern. But he's under contract. He's going to be at camp. He's going to get a shot at the starting rotation. And right now he looks like he should be ready. We will see whether he can, maintain that efficiency and stay healthy.
I'd like to go back over the last 3 or 4 years and read or listen to how many times we have said that about him. He's healthy. He's ready to go. When pitchers show up, boy, it's going to be great to see.
The only difference,
3 weeks in, Bob.
Well, I know, but the only difference is that he made, I think, 7 relief appearances in September.
Yes. Yeah.
And looked good in just about all of them.
Yeah.
And the velocity was up. His spin rate is really high on the breaking balls. He looked like the prospect.
Yeah.
Now, these are relief appearances. These were generally 1-inning appearances, generally throwing 15 to 20 pitches. That's a big difference from throwing 100 pitches and it's in the starting rotation. So, it's cautious optimism. And yes, we've had it before. And he did it with a hernia problem too.
Yeah,
now, I have no idea how that affected him. You ever had a hernia problem?
No.
No? Well, my son actually had to have surgery for a hernia problem.
So they put the mesh in and everything, all that stuff?
I don't know exactly what they did. Yeah. But he had the surgery, and he was limping around for probably the better part of a month.
Wow.
And so I know that it is impactful. I can't even imagine throwing a baseball 102 miles an hour with a hernia problem. But he had it, and they knew he had it. And he, I guess, felt like he could do it, so they let him, but with the decision to get the surgery immediately after the regular season. And I love that idea. I hate it when guys pause at the end of the year to see if it'll heal.
Yeah.
Because it almost never does. You were going to say.
Well, you also mentioned another name that I think now, in a very short period of time, we take for granted his role in this rotation. Take for granted. And that's Manoah.
Oh, I don't think we take for granted at all.
But I mean, here's this guy's a young guy too. He's just become part of the future so quickly. To me, it's been quick.
Oh, it has been quick.
I mean, and that's truly amazing to me that how now he's established. And or are we jumping the gun on this?
Well, we've seen plenty of pitchers historically have great first years and then blow up.
Yeah.
And I can't explain the reason for it.
Other than the league learns them, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't have trick pitches.
Yeah.
He throws basically what everybody else throws. He throws fastball and breaking ball, slider, or occasional curve, bit of a change up. He's got the arsenal that most pitchers have. What he has got is great control, and that's something that Pearson has struggled with. It's something even Ryu has struggled with. Ray's control was horrible. That was essentially his problem in his career up until coming to the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just think that we don't talk about lots of people, and we probably don't talk about Alex Manoah enough, about what he is and what he's going to be and the expectation of this franchise for him.
Well, we didn't talk much about Berrios either, but I mean, Berrios and Manoah are 1 and 2 in the starting rotation today. And if Ray comes back,
ahead of Ryu, you have them ahead of Ryu. You do, huh?
Ryu did not have a good year.
No, he didn't.
And you have to be concerned about whether, the end is near with him. And I think he's smart enough and a good enough pitcher that, this is a guy who could throw till he's 45 years old, in theory. His fastball's only around 90, doesn't overthrow anything, was reasonably healthy this year by comparison to other years. So there's cause to believe that he can be an effective middle rotation pitcher, a number 3 or a number 4. Is he ever going to be a number 1 again? I don't think so. And certainly with Berrios and what we expect from Manoah, and maybe with Ray re-signing, he could drop to 4, maybe even 5 in the rotation. And the significance of that is almost nothing.
Well, okay. So I'm going to ask you to put your general manager's hat on. Maybe we should have asked Anthopoulos without tampering. But for the money they're paying, are they paying too much for a 4th or 5th guy then?
Well, my answer to this is going to relate to how they use these pitchers.
Sure.
If you're going to give a guy $20 million plus, he damn well better pitch 200 innings. I'd like to see him pitch 250. I'd love to see him pitch 300, but that's not going to happen. I get 300 is not going to happen, but 250 is an attainable number.
But
you can't be yanking them after twice through the rotation.
No, but to me, and I'm not an analytics guy, even in any sport, but so for 250 innings, I can justify $20 million.
Sure. I can even do it for 200.
You could?
Yeah.
You could?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's 6 innings per start, give or take. And in this world, even with the way they view things, that shouldn't be out of the range of possibility. You're going to have the odd start where you don't make it to the 7th, or you're done before the 6th, more accurately. But you're going to have the odd start where you go into the 7th, maybe even the 8th. Mm-hmm. God forbid you throw a complete game. But I don't subscribe to the theories that they use in Major League Baseball today. And I want my starting pitchers to pitch 200 innings, all 5 of them, assuming they're healthy. And they're not going to be all healthy all year. That's almost impossible.
Right.
But that's what I'm targeted for. I want a minimum of 6 innings from every start.
Yeah.
Um, understanding there's going to be nights where you don't have it and you get lit up and you're going to get out of there quickly. But I'm not pulling a guy at the end of 5 because the lineup's coming up for the 3rd time, or the lineup's coming up for the 4th time. I don't care about how many times they've seen him. Don't care.
If the lineup's coming up for the 4th time, Bob, either he's been brilliant or he's been brutal.
Well, here's the truth. If you're going to pitch into the 8th and certainly 9th inning, you are almost, unless you're throwing a no-hitter, you're going to start facing the lineup for at least the 4th time.
4th time. That's right.
Well, that doesn't scare me. All you got to do is work each guy a little differently. If you strike a guy out the first 2 times, are you afraid to face him the 3rd time? No, just keep throwing him the same stuff you threw him. He's shown he can't hit it. Now, if somebody has lit you up, hit you a couple of times, well, then you want to change gears a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe you're throwing him more fastballs. Well, now you're going to throw him more breaking balls. You've been pitching him inside. Maybe you go away a bit more. You want to mix it up. And that's all you have to do. Just don't be stubborn. You know, don't let the long-term record impact what you're doing, what's happening on that night. Anyway, this is me preaching. And I know that there's probably 3/4 of the audience that's raised their eyebrow in a Spockian fashion, no doubt.
Right.
Or said, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Or tap their feet like
Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. Well, you don't know.
So let me. Okay. So we've solved the pitching issues, and
we haven't solved them, but we know where they stand.
And I think you have to assume, don't you think, that you're going to get at least one of Matt's or Ray?
Well, I would say if you don't get one of Matt's or Ray, then you're going to you got somebody else targeted from another organization.
Yeah. Okay.
But the guy, I think, I don't know whether you agree, but I think the guy who's at the top of the list for me is Semien. He is a leader.
Well, that's where I was going. That's where I was
going. He may not want to come back to Toronto. He may not want to play second base. You know, we hear all those things, but we haven't heard that.
Why would you not want to play second base after the year you had there?
Well,
holy smokes.
Exactly.
MVP
he may want to go to San Francisco because that's close to home.
Actually, do you know where I'm hearing more as much as San Francisco now?
No, tell me.
Seattle.
Well, that's a pretty good young ball club too. Although the Blue Jays have had more success than the Mariners have.
Yeah.
And I'd take that into account if I was him.
So let me throw this one at you.
Yeah.
You don't get Semien. He leaves.
Yeah.
You, in theory, have this bundle of money for the infield. Okay? You have this bundle of money for the infield.
Well, you do, but you're going to have to pay Guerrero. You're going to have to pay Bichette.
No, right. But you have to, so would you take the money and target a second baseman, or would you target the money and take the money and target a third baseman?
It depends on what you think of Biggio. Do you think Biggio is a better second baseman than a third baseman? Biggio provides you some pop if he plays every day. Or he's not going to hit 47.
Or he's the best utility infielder going.
Could be.
Yeah. I
don't think you sign Semien and then go out and get a premium third baseman.
No, I agree with you. But I'm saying is that at some point when Mark and Ross are sitting there saying, shit, we didn't get Semien, we shouldn't have tunnel vision and just try to find a second baseman to replace Semien. Maybe we should take a bit of that money and move it to third base.
And again, my response to that, John, is does the organization think Biggio is good enough to play second base, or would they prefer him at third base, or do they see him as a super utility guy? Yeah. And I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know that they know the answer.
Yeah. And don't forget, you probably have an ace up your sleeve in thinking you might be able to move an outfielder for somebody to fit into one of those two spots too, right?
Well, and
we haven't heard very much of that yet. Even out of some of the meetings, we haven't heard very much.
No, and you're kind of stuck because the guy you'd probably trade is Gurriel.
Right.
He'd bring you the most. if I got an offer on Hernandez, I'd consider it.
Boy,
And
Bob,
that's
Bob.
going to be considered sacrilege.
Almost
But
sacrilege.
I'm not saying I'd take it. It'd have to be a pretty good offer, but I'd think about that. I'd think about
I'm
it.
not so sure. I'm not so sure about that, Bob.
Well, I don't think
Wow.
I don't think, again, if you keep Semien, what did Hernandez,
Well, if you,
31
no,
home
but
runs?
yeah, but that's different. I mean, if you are able to keep Semien for 3 years, maybe 4.
Well, it's going to be that
If you're-
long at least.
Well,
You're not
but
going to
if you're
sign him to
able to
less
keep
than a 3-year contract. No
right,
chance.
okay. So if you're able to, then I mean, if you keep Semien, then that changes a lot. I think a lot of that dialogue, purely from a financial perspective. Not
Well,
from
and
a
that's my
talent
point,
perspective.
John. At some point, you're going to have to pay Gurriel and you're going to have to pay Bichette.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt about that. And at this moment in time,
and Vladdy, right?
who did I say? Did I say Gurriel?
Yeah.
I meant Vladdy. That's who I meant.
Okay.
You're going to have to pay those two infielders.
Okay.
And Vladdy's going to be a $30 million a year player. I don't think there's any doubt about it, or very close to it.
Yeah.
Bichette, at least 20 a year, and probably 25 a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. And you can't pay everybody. And at some point, you're going to have to decide what's important. Well, I think those two guys are your cornerstones, aren't they? They're the guys you must keep. You must keep them.
And the bar has been set with the Springer. The bar has been set with the Springer contract.
Springer's getting 25, and he's not going anywhere.
No.
So
I mean, I tell you what. If let me ask you this: if Springer's 25, what is Bichette?
Well, that's
25.
why he might be 25.
I think he's 20. Yeah.
Yeah, but you haven't seen Springer play a whole year. In the limited time he played, he is a big time talent.
Yeah.
And the reason the Blue Jays didn't make the postseason, you can talk about all the things you want. If your center fielder was playing every day, they make the postseason, and who knows, maybe win the World Series. Who knows?
Well,
that was the difference. As much as anything else, all this talk about, well, they played in Dunedin and they played in Buffalo, and this guy got hurt and this happened and that happened, blah, 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 blah. Your center fielder played half a season essentially.
Yeah.
And in a half a season was lights out. And when he's hot, he's as hot as anybody in baseball. He's a solid defensive center fielder, above average. I'm not going to say he's great, but he's above average, more than capable. And he's got pop in his bat. And I don't want to give up Hernandez. You want to keep everybody, but you can't, John. That is the truth. You cannot.
No, that's why Gurriel's the guy.
But Gurriel's making $7 million a year or something like that. Do you remember when he signed that contract? Like he never played a major league game and signed a 7-year contract for like $7 million a year. We all kind of went, what?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to come to an end. And he's going to want more. And I'm happy to have him. But right now, and for the next, I don't know how many years, couple of years,
At least.
he's economically controllable. Hernandez is going to be an issue. I think he's the odd man out. So if you get an opportunity to trade him, I think you look at that. I think you have to look at that. Anyway, you're not arguing.
And you have to.
So maybe I've convinced you.
Well, no, because I still think that. I mean, Hernandez was so good. I think you try to hold on for dear life with him. I think the question becomes:
you want to go get Seager to play third base?
Well, no, but I only want to do that. I mean, I know that there's going to have to be a linchpin if you don't get Semien, or if you do get Semien. That changes the whole perspective. That's for the infield. To me, that changes the whole perspective, because if you haven't spent the $25 million on Semien, then you do have money to go to third base. You do. so then that fits into, okay, if we sign Semien, we have to find a way to get somebody there, affordable, attractable, and we're probably going to have to make a trade. And if you're going to trade somebody, to me, it's before it's Hernandez, it's Gurriel. That's all I'm saying.
Here's what I would say. The Blue Jays have gone out and got third baseman, high-profile third baseman in the past, and it hasn't materialized into anything tangible. Here's the problem. Semien's year at second base was so far better than any other second baseman in baseball that he made a difference at that position. Sure. Seager, while a very good player, is he the best third baseman in baseball? No. Is he going to give you like above average numbers there? Maybe. No. There's a big difference. It becomes a comparative thing for me. There aren't second basemen out there that can hit 47 home runs. There aren't second basemen that can steal bases. There aren't second basemen who can play not flawlessly, but close to it defensively. And there aren't second basemen who give you that experience and presence in the clubhouse, which is also important and really important on this team, who seem to love each other. Wow. And you want to keep that going. So I would rather spend $30 million on Semien than spend $20 million on a guy like Seager.
I find it hard to believe. I mean, I just think that Shapiro and Atkins are sitting there saying, okay, listen, I mean, how many third basemen did they play in the end? I think, was it 4 or 5 different guys at some point?
A bunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they have to look at it and say, as good as we were, as well as we hit all year long, we're missing one piece of the puzzle. And that is getting a 280 hitter, 90 RBIs, 25 home runs minimum out of our third baseman. We're not running. I mean,
but you
sorry
can't.
For the metaphors, we're not running at full capacity with a defensive third baseman. We're not running at full capacity. We're not. So how do you do that?
But nobody does. Nobody has the best of everything everywhere. There is enough offense on this team.
That becomes the question, Bob. This may be.
But you've got to put it into economic terms. You cannot have a $20 million guy at third, a $25 million guy at second, a $30 million guy at second. I said short. First. Yeah.
Who's on
and
first?
Then a $30 million guy. You can't. And then you got a $25 million guy in center field. Hernandez is a $20 million guy in right field. And who knows what Gurriel, $15 million there? You can't do it. And then you want, 5 $20 million pitchers, starting pitchers.
Welcome to Major
You're going to be at $400
Baseball.
million. How much are you prepared to pay for tickets? Are you prepared to pay $1,000 a ticket?
I'm going to stay home and watch on. I'm going to stay home and watch on television.
Hey, listen, I can remember when you could get outfield seats at C&E Stadium for $2.
I was going to say 5.
But... Oh, remember the grocery store? You could go to the grocery
store. The old grandstand. The old grandstand.
You go sit in the grandstand for $2. It's going to be 2,000. It's going to be 2,000 to sit in the outfield with the lineup that you're proposing.
No, I'm more waiver. I mean, I threw that out there just to contemplate it. I'm more concerned about taking the money if you don't get Semien and move it to third base, and then you say Biggio plays. Well, why?
I don't like that idea. Because I told you, because I don't think there's a third. If you're talking about the best third baseman in the game by miles, if you're talking about Brooks Robinson, Cal Ripken, that kind of third baseman, okay.
Cal Ripken was a shortstop, wasn't he, Bob?
Well, I played third base near the end of his career.
Okay.
If you're talking about that kind of quality Hall of Fame player, then all right, we can have that discussion.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm talking about if they don't get Semien, where do they take that allotted money for the infield and move it from second to third? And does that and I think your answer, the original answer was the best one, is it depends what they do with Biggio and what they think.
Well, it
Biggio
depends
can
on what
do.
they think of Biggio.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're going to do what they think is right. And Biggio, remember, was hurt most of the year too.
Yeah.
So,
but I think Biggio,
we don't really know what he is.
Think, you know, we've had multiple guys on the podcast, whether it was Shy or Buck or Dan, talk about Biggio in terms of maybe the best utility guy in Major League Baseball.
Well, but you know what else is important here? This lineup is two right-handed, and Biggio is a left-handed hitter.
Left-handed hitter, yeah.
And you want his bat out there. If he's good enough, his left-handed bat matters. And if you're going to make any change, if you take Hernandez out of the outfield, and I'm just going back and just hypothesizing here, you're going to do it because there's a left-handed bat available for right field. Mm-hmm. That's what you're going to do. Because remember, all your outfielders are right-handed hitters. Yeah. Semien, right-handed hitter.
Yeah. You're
everybody.
And they said that at the end of the year that they were too right-handed. They have to get a bit more left-handed, left side of the plate. Yeah. No, they've.
And Biggio is the one guy that they know that you think defensively could play second or third.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a Gold Glover, but who knows? He's good enough. He's not a stone finger out there, but he's a left-handed bat. And you would like to have that left-handed bat in the lineup virtually every day. We got to take a break.
Well, I'm putting him at second base.
Again, for those that missed it, I don't know why you'd miss it. Can you tune in late to a podcast?
No, because this podcast is going to be, somebody's going to be listening to this podcast in July of 2023, Bob.
Yeah, and find out how stupid we are.
That's right.
No, but it's also a radio show, so on Sirius. So if you tuned into Sirius late, the news of the day, if you didn't know it, Jose Berrios, 7 years, $131 million with the Blue Jays. He was 12-9, 3.52 ERA, 192 innings pitched. His WHIP was 1.06 for the Nerds. That's pretty good. Walks and hits per innings pitched.
And to me, the salary is one thing. Term is another. The fact that he would commit to be here for 6 more years after his existing contract is a big thing.
I don't think it's not necessarily his last contract, but it could be his last big contract. And he decided to spend it here. So
yeah.
Yes, I think, and that's that chemistry thing, John. I think he came here and went, wow, these guys are fun to play with. They're good guys. They love each other. I mean, and I said this many times on this show. I've never seen a team as tight as these guys are. Who I mean, sometimes I get a little annoyed because they look like they're having fun even when they're losing. But you know what? Over 162, hey, that's what you want.
That's baseball, man.
It's this team. It's not every team, believe me.
No, but you know, I mean, if you're a 600 team, you're basically you're losing one and winning two, losing one and winning two. I mean, that's what this team can endeavor to do, and they are. What I mean by that is they're not going to go on a 25-game winning streak, so you are going to have some downtime, and you can still enjoy yourself, and that's the thing about a 162-game schedule. Yeah,
they have plenty of fun.
By the way, if you keep this up, Bob, I'm going to get you the jacket. We're going to get you the jacket. You'll be finished. You can put the jacket on. It'll be so good.
Well, when I hit a home run off you.
Well, no, hey, they gave it to pitchers last year. They gave it to pitchers a couple times, Bob.
Am I pitching now? God, I have to do everything. We got a break, John. Can you shut up for 2 minutes?
I've heard you think you couldn't hit the ball out of the infield, Bob, so you can't hit.
You keep saying that, and I keep saying, let's go.
Well.
That's
when we
there's got to be
Rogers,
a diamond out
we
here.
We had a better chance. We had a better chance when we worked at Rogers. We don't work at Rogers anymore.
Well, we were going to plant tomatoes in the outfield too. Remember that?
I know. My tomatoes this year, Bob. My tomatoes this year were outstanding.
And when will my tomatoes be arriving here? I mean, you can't possibly eat all those tomatoes. How many tomatoes has Mickey frozen?
Oh no, we ate them all summer. They're done now.
Really? Thank you very much. I appreciate the offer. The break,
I don't,
and then
I
I'll be
don't
back with a new
recall-
co-host in a moment.
I don't recall an offer at all.
No, I know there wasn't. Back after these messages. So a bunch of other things to discuss. We're back, by the way.
Hey, we going to mention
to
the
say that
soccer
again.
game? We're going to mention the soccer game?
Well, John, it's like you say that as if I'd forgotten about it. We talked about one thing in the first segment. I didn't ignore the soccer game. I didn't ignore last night's football game. I didn't ignore the Raptors. I wanted to talk a little bit about Dion Phaneuf. You know, I didn't ignore any of that. So don't put it on me like I ignored it.
I can't believe you didn't bring it up.
Deliberately. Are we going to talk about the
Well,
soccer game? Yes, go ahead. Talk about the soccer game.
Well,
You know, I don't
Canada-
know anything about soccer.
Well, neither do I, but we like talking about it since John, our
Well,
buddy
you
John
do.
Herdman, our pal John Herdman, you know.
Well,
Now he's our
if the producer had got John Herdman on today, game day, then we talk to him when we talk.
I will
about
tell
soccer.
you right now, I don't think the producer could have got Herdman on game day.
I'm guessing you're probably right. But
But
having said that, he didn't.
Well, and maybe we get Herdman coming up again, you know.
Well, that'll be a little after the fact. So they're expecting about 200,000 people at the game in Edmonton, where it's going to be 50 below zero.
Okay.
Those may be modest exaggerations, but it's going to be bleeping cold.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
even
yeah.
the Canadian players can say, oh, this is a big advantage to us. I got news for you. Mexican guys come up here. If it was 10 degrees, they'd be freezing.
Well, so
It's going to be minus 10.
Here is the fascination. Friday night's game against Costa Rica, the temperature in the end ended up being, I think, +3 in Edmonton for the game. So at the same time, Costa Rica, when Canada were playing, the U.S. and Mexico were playing in Cincinnati. Do you know what the temperature was in Cincinnati?
No, tell me.
+4.
Really?
So it wasn't a very nice day in Cincinnati when the Americans beat them 2-0. So I don't think the Mexicans really care too much about whether it's warm or cold. They'll just play.
Well, it's going to be cold. It's going to be a lot colder than it was.
And there's a bit of snow on the ground in Edmonton. Little snow on the ground.
Well, I have no idea whether what impact this will have at all. We theorize all this stuff, but do we? You know, Canadians have gone down to playing 35-degree temperatures, maybe 40-degree temperatures. You know,
Yeah.
well, they don't lose because of that. They've lost in the past because they were bad, but they've done better this year. I don't know.
Yep.
It's a theory. I don't know whether it stands up. If they beat Mexico 10-0 tonight, I'll buy it. Anything other than that, I'm going to be on the fence.
Okay.
So Canada plays Mexico tonight. Chance to move into first place, right?
Yes,
That'd be something, huh?
it really would. And you know, I still believe they either have to beat Mexico or the Americans once in order to really cement themselves to go to Qatar or Qatar, depending on what part of the world you are in.
What if they tie again?
Well, then you know,
You got two
ties aren't a
ties.
bad thing. Ties aren't a bad thing.
No.
Not at this point. Not after the impressive victories they've had against the other teams.
All right, we got to move on because Lord knows what other things you'll talk about. Rams go and get Odell Beckham Jr. They get Von Miller. Beckham played almost not at all. I didn't see the whole game. I watched bits and pieces. It was a crummy game. I saw him standing on the sidelines. I don't even know if he got in for a play, but he's only been with them for a couple of days. He doesn't know the plays. He'll play next week. But they get crushed by San Francisco.
Here's the amazing thing about what the Rams have done. I mean, they go and get Matthew Stafford out of Detroit. Stafford, for the first half of the season, was maybe the MVP of the National Football League. And ownership there have been adamant to Sean McVay, adamant that you have to be in the Super Bowl this year. We're hosting the Super Bowl. You have to be the Super Bowl. So they've gone out. You're right. They've got Miller. They've gone and got Beckham, and they have not played well since. They really haven't. The last 3 or 4 weeks, the Rams, either the world has cut up to the Rams or the Rams have just collapsed for some silly reason.
Can I talk about this notion of the importance of the Rams being in the Super Bowl because they host?
It's the importance for ownership.
Well, wait a second. But wait a second.
Okay. Okay.
Last year, the Super Bowl was in Tampa,
Yes, sir.
and the Tampa Bay Bucks played in it. First time
Yes.
that a team has won the Super Bowl on home turf.
Home turf. Correct.
The economic impact, the impact within the community as it pertains to ownership of that happening is about as minute as you could possibly imagine. Why? I could be wrong on this number, but at one point, there were about 5,000 tickets assigned to the home team for their season ticket base.
Yeah.
So if you sell 50,000 season tickets, only 1 in 10 is going to get a ticket to the Super Bowl. 1 in 10. The place is filled with people from somewhere else who don't impact on your market at all.
Oh, no.
Other than on that day.
No, listen, this is all Stan Kroenke's ego, Bob. This is not about, well, I'm going to make more money, but this is, I'm going to be able to use.
It's not important. It's not critical. It's only important to him, maybe.
That's it.
Why it's important to him? Who knows?
Because it's ego for Stan Kroenke and what he wants to do. He wants to show off his new stadium. He's got this new stadium.
He's going to do that. Doesn't matter who plays in it.
No, but
he's going to show off his new stadium. He'll be able to do all that stuff. He'll be able to strut around like the cat who swallowed the canary up in the private boxes. And the people down below, the peons down below, will all be rich business guys who are friends of the National Football League. I know. That's what it is. Excuse me. Period. End of story.
Okay. All right.
Dion Phaneuf announces.
Hey, I saw Dion last night. I saw Dion and Alicia last night at the Hockey Hall of Fame. He was.
We got to go quick here.
Didn't mention anything.
But he was captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs for, I think, 6 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you ask most Leaf fans, they would say Dion Phaneuf was a disappointment as a Toronto Maple Leaf. Would you not agree?
As the seasons wore on, yes. I think that when he came out of Calgary, came to Toronto, had a lot of. He came with a big resume coming out of the Flames, and the expectation was that he was going to take this team to another level. And then they put the C on his sweater, Bob, prematurely, in my opinion, and put a ton of pressure on Dion. And listen, Dion, for what the role of the captain is, you and I have debated. I'm still not sure, but Dion came out every night after every game and answered every question and tried to be that guy. But at the end of the time, he wasn't able to deliver what he was supposed to deliver as being a number one defenseman in the National Hockey League to a team that needed a number one defenseman.
Well, that answers the question. We wish him well.
And by the way, it's funny, as he's one of those guys that as a player, he's a much friendlier, nicer guy now than he ever was when he was in the room. And whether it was the pressure of playing, but last night at the Hall of Fame, we had a great discussion about his life. Never mentioned this about the retirement, saved it for today. But he looks very happy. He looks like in tremendous shape. He probably could play again. But I think he's very comfortable where he is in life right now.
We wish him well. We'll come back and wrap it up after these messages. Well, before we bid you a fond adieu, the Toronto Raptors played last night and another loss. Opened up a big lead early. Mm-hmm. They were about even at the half, about even after 3 quarters. And then Portland poured it on early in the 4th quarter, and Raptors mounted a comeback, but couldn't get over the hump and wound up losing by, I think, 5.
Yeah.
Takeaways?
I'm blaming the time zone. The time change. By the time the 4th quarter comes, it's 1:00 in the morning for them.
I was shocked. Grange and Smith were on yesterday. They both seem very comfortable and confident in this team. I'm not.
No, I'm with you. I think it's a middle of the road team, and I think that they will fight for their life for that 8 spot in the end.
Yeah, I think that's the best you can hope for.
And I'm not. And by the way, if that's the case, I'm not doing anything silly in February. I'm not trying to find anybody at the deadline or buying out a contract or doing anything like that.
Well, Anunoby was crazy in the first quarter, and then they stopped giving him the ball. I never understand that. And I think it's because this team too often doesn't share. And I love that Van Vliet plays like hell in the fourth quarter, but I wish he'd play like hell in the first quarter too. And those are sort of the two takeaways from last night's game. Otherwise, it was they didn't defend well again either.
But you can't give up 118 points and expect to win, Bob.
Well, and the Portland guards ate them up. Now they're good, but Lillard and McCallum both scored over 20, I think.
World class. He's, I don't think because he plays in a small market.
Crazy. Yeah.
No, but because he plays in a small market on the West Coast, I don't think people appreciate him. That's right. That's right.
And Powell didn't have a big night, and I'm sure he would have liked to against his former team, but nice to see him. That'll do it for us. I assume we will have some company tomorrow.
Yes, we will have James Sharman tomorrow.
Oh, we will talk about the footy game.
Yes.
And his pies.
And pies.
I might just have one right now that I think of it. They are very tasty. I do recommend them.
Okay. Would you like some sliced tomatoes with that?
I would, but I don't know anybody who saved any for me.
I mean, they're done. They're gone.
That'll do it for us. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.